Hi, my name is Sara Kukir and I welcome you at the biggest Christian festival in Europe. We are in a beautiful place in Haute-Comabie in France. Today I have the pleasure to talk to one of the speakers whose life, ministry and work could be described with two words: beauty and quality. Welcome, Johannes Hartl. I'm pleased to see you.
Hello, nice to meet you.
I would like to introduce you to our audience. So you're a speaker and author. You have a message of life about the fascination with God. You are a doctor in Catholic theology and the founder of the House of Prayer in Augsburg, which you grounded with your wife Jutta in 2005. Would you like to add something to these informations?
Yeah, I would say over the last 2 years I've spoken about the ecology of the human heart. So I'm getting more into area of philosophy and the question, what is the future of human race, so to speak. So right now I'm pretty much speaking outside the former church context into that rather society topic.
And you're also a musician.
I'm also a musician, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, when I was preparing, I was scrolling your Instagram account, and in the last posts you have written that you do a 6-week holiday from social media.
That's true, yeah.
And for 2 weeks you're leaving your phone at home when you go for vacation. I think most of us do not feel how it is. So could you say us, how does it feel to go on holiday, live without phone and social media for a few weeks?
I love it. But first of all, I'm a very digital person, so I'm all the time on my phone because I have Instagram and YouTube and all those things going on. But it takes me like 2 or 3 days, and the first 2 or 3 days it feels awkward, but then it really is a big relief. So normally I do 2 large social media fasting times per year. This one, the first one this year I did like in January, and now the second one is in summer. And after 2 or 3 days, I really feel that my spirit is relieved. It's actually stress. It feels like distraction, but it's stress, being on the phone all the time.
That's inspiring.
Yeah, you have to try it out, honestly.
I will try it out. I have vacation this month, so I will try it out. I would like to start with also a bigger question. We are living in weird times, starting with the pandemic in 2019, then 2 years of lockdown, and now we are witnessing the war in Ukraine. This is a time of instability. People are distancing from each other, and a lot of us is struggling with anxiety and depressions.
True.
So the world seems to never be able to go back to the way it was before. How do you perceive these difficult times? How do you see it? What does it mean to you, what's happening now?
Well, first of all, we got used to stable times that were always the exception from human experience, right? Humans always had wars, famines, earthquakes, disasters. So I think it's rather normal. I don't like it personally, but I do believe a crisis always shows your foundation. And this crisis right now shows how weak our foundations is. I mean, me personally, I was stressed out during the first lockdown. I really had to learn, I'm still learning, try to learn how can we navigate those times. And I think you can always either blame God or blame the universe or the politicians, how bad things are, or you can ask yourself, what is it potentially that I'm being trained for in a season like that? Because honestly, there are much worse crises possible than Corona. Actually, Corona was not that big a crisis, right? The Great Plague in the 1500s or 1400s was much severe. And the war in Ukraine is terrible, but we have survived 2 world wars before that. And your nation knows best what that meant, right? So basically, a crisis is always the invitation to grow your roots deeper, to say, how could my family, how could my nation, my community survive in even more severe circumstances? And that intrigues me. What are techniques or what are social practices that help to sustain a community or a land in a crisis time like that? And I think we have to learn that.
In your work, you are talking a lot about the fundamental areas of life. So could you share with us today what is the foundation of true life regardless of the circumstances like?
Well, I personally believe that there are 3 ingredients to human life that we need. And the first one is being connected. The second one is meaning. The third one is beauty. I call that the 3 elements of an ecology of the human heart. So first of all, connectedness. You spoke about social distancing, and in those times we felt that we feel robbed of our humanity if we lose contact. So we need contact, we need skin contact, we need looking in the eyes, stuff you cannot go through Zoom alone, right? And this needs to be foundational in the first years of a person's life. So I believe we have to speak about family values again, we have to speak about how we treat children, but also what are we going to do with the loneliness pandemic that we have, especially in the West. We have many more elderly people than we have young people. We are more in the city than in the land, and we are more in digital media than in face-to-face interaction. And I'm not blaming anybody, this is just the modern world, but we have to come up with ideas how to cope with that. And the second thing is meaning, and the third one is beauty. I think these 3 elements are crucial for human life.
Yeah. About beauty, in your teaching ministry and events, you emphasize the importance of beauty in knowing God, creativity and quality in daily life.
Yeah.
So could you say us more, what does quality, beauty, what does it mean for you? Is it the same? How do you see it?
Well, first of all, quality simply, or excellence, as I refer to, means to do things as good as I'm capable of. And this is whatever matters most to us human beings, we try to do in a high quality, right? If I invite somebody whom I love for dinner, I try to have a proper lunch on the table, a proper dinner on the table. If I don't do that, obviously this person is not of importance for me. Yeah. So quality is something how we express value. Therefore, you can see what you value most by how much quality, how much efficiency, excellence you put into something. And beauty, again, is something a little bit different, because quality can be very productive and functional, like in your work, but beauty is always above utility. Beauty is not necessary, right? The fact that a flower is beautiful doesn't add to its functional value. It's not you can do stuff with the rose if it's more beautiful. It's just, or if you ask somebody, why is it that you're watching the sunset? What do you get out of it? Yeah. It's a nonsense question, right? You don't get anything out of it. It's just beauty is an end in itself. Yeah. And we are living in times, of course, we are post-industrial revolution. Basically everything is for sale. Everything is monetarized by money, which is how capitalism works. And capitalism, there are many good things. But the downside is there are certain things in life that are not for sale, right? There are things you can never buy and they should never be bought. Yeah. And those are actually the things that we value the most. These are actually the things that we call sacred. Yeah. And the beauty protects the sacred. It's not even just religion, right? It's starting with the simple fact, I can never pay you to smile at me. If I was able to pay you, it would be a fake smile. What is a paid smile? What is that, right? There are some things that are not meant to be sold and not meant to be bought, and beauty tries to protect that.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on beauty and the relationship with God?
With God? Yeah. Well, it is an old tradition, basically coming from the Greek philosophy, to believe that the truth, the good and the beautiful point towards a certain direction. The question is, to what direction? A non-religious philosopher would have to stop there to say, it's really interesting that we crave for truth, that we crave for goodness. We want to be good. We don't want to be bad at the end of the day. And we crave for beauty. And I think philosophy alone cannot answer that. This then is a theological question. Is there really a source of the truth, of goodness and of beauty, or not? As a believing person, I believe yes, there is. And if you contemplate nature, it's very interesting. It's hard to find ugly things in nature. Why is it that we human beings, we not just use nature, like with agriculture or domesticating animals, but we delight in it? Why is it we find nature beautiful? Why is it that there is something in natural beauty that touches our heart? Again, a philosopher can only ask the question. A believing person can say, well, probably the one who created all of that has a sense of beauty. Obviously he has. So for me, it's obvious that God is not just almighty or the creator. No, he's an artist. he the one who came up with the idea of color. How crazy is that? So for me, as Dostoevsky said, if an age becomes thumb to the idea of truth and of goodness, they will still find God through beauty. Something in there. He said beauty will save the world. I don't know if that's true, but beauty definitely points us towards God.
That's really inspiring. But now I will jump a bit.
Okay, jump.
I would like to ask you more about leadership. I have this feeling you have so much to share that I would like this conversation to be like a conversation that can awaken life in people who need inspiration. So I want to touch different places. So you are the leader of the House of Prayer in Augsburg, which you founded together with your wife Jutta in 2005.
Yeah, that's correct.
And there is 24/7 prayer and worship since 2011.
Correct.
And you have welcomed there hundreds or thousands of people. Thousands, both ministering, visiting.
Yeah.
So you have a great experience in leadership, both theological and practical. What have you learned from leading this organization and people for the last 17 years?
Okay, how many hours do we have? I mean, leadership is really a great art. I don't even know if I'm a good leader, but I can tell you many mistakes that I made. And there are some things that I learned. At the end of the day, leadership is a combination of loving people, but also having a clear vision where we want to go together. Yeah. And if one of the two is out of balance, you have a problem, right? Many people, especially in the Christian world, in the church, they are too much pastorally oriented. They want to love people and be nice to people, but they cannot tell you where are we going, right? In the business world, it's the opposite. It's oftentimes very goal-oriented, like we want to reach that profit level, and actually we use human beings to serve those goals, right? At the end of the day, we need both. Good leadership is a balance of both. I do love my people, but not to the degree that I will let them destroy the vision that is in my heart, or maybe even God has given me. But then I will love my people. I will not use them. I will not destroy them in order for them to fit into my vision. So I think this is a balance. I learned a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it is an art. It's a team sport. You need more people to communicate with, and it's a very important role. I think the most important question is already the question that you are asking, right? Wherever there are humans, there is leadership. Yeah. The question is, are we talking about who is leading and how he or she is leading, or are we not talking about? And the worst thing is if nobody talks about it. Everybody knows, this is how we do things here, but nobody addresses the issues. There is no training in leadership. There is no excellence. That's the worst thing. So how to value people's heart and their relationship with God more than hours they spend in ministry? Is it correct this way, to value their heart more than hours they work, for example, in ministry? It depends, right? If you just on a pastoral level, just if you're friends, you're supposed to love the person for who he is, right? But in a ministry or working atmosphere, I need both, right? Because if you're doing a bad job, I can still like you, love you as a person, accept you, but I'm the leader of the whole congregation, and if I allow you to mess up the whole organization, I've been loving you, but not loving the whole group, right? Yeah. So therefore, sometimes love also means this was not good, sorry, I have to correct you, or maybe this is not the right spot for you, you have to go. So this would be the toughness aspect. I cannot allow one person to spoil the vision that's relevant for the whole group. And how to empower people so that they pursue for their beauty in their calling and quality. I have both thoughts in their calling. Yeah, first of all, people are inspired by people and more by what they see them do than what they talk about. Yeah. So that's the bad thing as a leader. They will always do what you do and not do what you say, right? They will copy your behavior. Therefore, you lead by your behavior. If you do an excellent job, you will probably inspire other people. The second thing is your vision needs to be strong enough, right? So if your vision is only you have to fit in our organization, which is the same way like it was 30 years ago, nobody will be will be inspired to bring quality. The third thing is celebration and community really brings forth excellence. Because normally everybody wants to belong, right? And if you have the mixture of the three, you have an inspiring leader, like, because he's inspiring or she's inspiring by the way of the behavior. The second thing, if you have a compelling vision that calls for the greatest within you to really give yourself. And then third, you have a vibrant community of others. This can create a positive feedback loop that creates more and more excellence. I think in this way you can lead an organization towards excellence.
Then jumping to the conferences you are organizing together with the House of Prayer in Augsburg. For 11 years, if I'm right, you organized the conference Mehr.
Yes.
It means in German more.
More.
And in which over 10,000 people participated. In 2018, you decided to stop organizing the conference and to go back to the roots, to relationships and prayer. And after that, there came lockdown. And then in 2022, at the beginning of the year, you decided to organize the conference Weniger. It means less.
Yeah.
So what is the story behind? Why are you not continuing organizing Mehr, which was so successful? And you start with something new with the opposite name.
Yeah, well, first of all, in the first 10 years of Mehr, we grew from 100 to 10,000. So this is a 100-fold increase. So in 2018, I clearly sensed that if we continue with that, we will actually burn out and we will lose the true depth of it. But then in 2020, we again had a Mehr. So, yes, and we had 12,000 people, we had even more. So we are going to continue with the Mehr, but not every year. So then lockdown came and we decided, what are we going to do? We cannot have as many people, we will have less. And then we say, well, why not call it less? And this is what I like about your question. Sometimes more is not more. Sometimes it's okay to not ride the wave of success. But you say, this is really working well, but let's start something totally different. So we started with this format called Less, Weniger, which is a very quiet conference, a silent one. It's smaller, it's more about contemplation, more about digital detox, so getting off the digital things. So it was a totally different concept and it worked. We're going to have the Weniger again this year in winter, because of course it was due to the COVID restriction. We were not allowed to have 12,000 people, and probably we won't be allowed this next winter either. So we're going to have again the Weniger, but then we plan to have the Mehr again.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think both organizations are really important.
Yeah.
And I really like the play with this world.
But there's an important thing about it. Oftentimes we build traditions around stuff that worked in the past.
Yeah.
And you should always be willing to throw something in the bin and say, let's start something totally new.
Yeah.
And oftentimes as leaders, we're hesitant. We say, never stop a winning team, which is good, but sometimes you need to stop something and to start something else.
And also not be like really focused on one project, but about what you are carrying.
Sure.
So.
And there are some things that work for 10 years. And then we're so sad, oh, why is this dying? Yeah, maybe there is something new that the Holy Spirit shows us. It's oftentimes like that.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Welcome.
I personally do fashion and music. And from my experience, I would say that the most successful and touching art I've made is this where I'm talking and processing about my struggles and my victories. And things that you talk about are really practical and authentic. And I would like you to share, if you like it too, an example of an area where you struggled, but you overcame it and with a victory. And now you are helping people or sharing your testimony in this area.
Oh, there are so many. Basically, all the teachings I speak, they come out of my own personal struggles. For example, when I first started with the House of Prayer, or basically when I started something new, I had voices of discouragement from inside and outside. First of all, from inside, I've met some great, very famous artists who would say, you are beyond critics, you are so successful. They would tell me at an evening in a glass of wine, Johannes, I'm full of self-doubt. Before I enter stage, I have those voices, I'm nobody. So everybody knows that. I'm not a great artist and so super famous, but I also know that. So I have to overcome that constant struggle of distraction in my own head almost on a daily basis. But then I also had it from the outside. And I'm still learning that, because it's like the more you grow, the more your enemies grow as well. But even 15 years ago, when we started the House of Prayer, when I told people we're gonna sit in a room and pray day and night without getting money for it, people would say, you're totally crazy. Most people taught me, even in my family, they taught me, this is not good, right? This is not a good idea. So I really had to overcome the fear of man and discouragement. And the fact, the sad stories I still have, I'm not through with that. Right?
Do you think someone is over that? Really free?
Probably not. Probably not. But even people like politicians, I admire them, because the level of pressure and the level of hostility they had to learn to go through, that's inspiring to me. So I want to keep learning that lesson.
And could you give us some tips, advices, how to overcome this voice? You hear it, you are doing like, you're getting like older, you're doing bigger things or better things as an artist, as a leader, whatever. You hear these voices, how to overcome them and be sure who you are and what you're bringing.
It's a big question, because the thing is, you don't want to shield yourself from all critics. That's not good, because probably 10 or 20% of the criticism is good. Yeah. So it's valuable, even if it's negative. That's what I'm saying. So you need, first of all, you need some people whom you trust, 3 to 5 people who will give you real feedback, positive and negative. I would say mainly positive, because you really need people who believe in you as a calling, as your calling, right? You wouldn't say, who are you anyways? But they're like, I believe in who you are, but here you could get better. So that's what you need. The second thing is, you have to limit your dose of input of negative critics. So for me, if you write me an email to my official address, it's not me getting all those emails, right? It's my assistant. I have to filter. And even YouTube commentaries and Instagram commentaries, most of it I do myself. I need to protect my heart against things, not reading everything, especially not the first evening, right? If you come out, if you have a big show or something like that, and you go home and you see the comments, you need to protect your heart. The third thing is, you really need time alone. So for believing persons, I would say you need time with God, where He really calls you by your name and reminds you who you are. But I would say the same even to a non-believer. I would say still, you need time in solitude and silence to find your voice. Because at the end of the day, the most important question is, what are you really called to do? And if you're really called to do this certain thing, then the fourth point is, then you can allow criticism, right? I would never say, don't listen to the critics. No, possibly there is something right. So I'd rather say, spend enough time in God's presence and then study your critics. And ask yourself what percentage of it could be true. And you should always try to achieve the highest quality. And sometimes the critics, they say something which is mean, it's not nice, but maybe it's 10% true. And I said, all right, you got me there. I need to get better on that point. So I hate it to be criticized. I don't like it. I love praise much more, but I learn also a lot. So what we do in the House of Prayer in our communities, we try to keep up a high level of open communication. So I do get a lot of negative feedback. I do. That's what you do. And if as a leader, if you allow that, then they will tell you that. They will say, Johannes, this was not nice. We say, all right, okay, I'll try again. But this is how we grow. But this is from people who basically love me. This is not from people out on the internet who just try to point the fingers and hate me.
That's awesome. Thank you for this. I'm representing today the Foundation Life Ministry, and our team gave me 5 quick questions to you. They are totally now from another story. So the first one, who are your authorities today and why?
My authorities?
Authorities.
In a sense of personal idols or people who inspire me, or talking about whose authority I am under?
No, this first one.
The first
who
one.
Inspires you after, like, whom you are hearing, teachings, inspiring, looking after.
Again, it's difficult in which direction, as a speaker, as a musician, as a leader.
You can give also like examples.
Yeah. As a human being, there is a lady who inspires me very much, who's a psychologist, who's a friend of mine, and whenever she gives me advice on something, I value that very highly. Secondly, in the level of clear thinking and penetrating things, I'm still a big fan of C.S. Lewis. He's dead already, but for me he was the best in that area. In the way of innovative leadership and creative leadership, he passed away as well, but I would name Steve Jobs, because he redid the whole industry.
Yeah.
In a way of being a Christian person who thinks through things. There is one guy from America, he's a pretty young guy, his name is John Mark Comer. He inspires me. And about music, there is one German, actually there is, I would say somebody, there is a young lady from Poland. Her name is Hania Rani. She's a musician. She inspires me very much.
Yeah.
I wanted to say Niels Fram. He's from Germany. He's even more famous. But lately, the last year, I've listened more to Hania Rani.
She's awesome.
Yeah, I would have a dream to have her at one of my conferences. I would write to her.
It will go. Okay, the second question is, what is your favorite type of prayer right now?
My favorite type of prayer is being and not doing anything. You might call it contemplative prayer, but this is even too technical a term for me. So for me, prayer is a very intimate, very personal, I being with myself, and in this being with myself, I'm deeply connected with God, who is always present in the here and now.
Wow. And what advice would you give to a person who wants to have a deep encounter with God in prayer? How to start?
First of all, daily. It's not so important that you pray long, but to do it daily. Secondly, but if your desire is really great, don't go for 10 minutes only. You know, you don't go for a romantic dinner and say, let's do for 10 minutes, right? Go for 30 minutes at least. Third one is, the more silence you can bear, do silence. It's difficult to do silence, right? We are in a noise-driven generation, so if you need music, if you need any external help, if you need coffee, that's all fine. But try to adjust yourself to silence. The fourth thing is, place yourself under the loving eyes of God. So God is here, He's like, there is lights here, He's shining His love on you. So if you perceive that your picture of God, your image of God is a negative one, just replace it with the original. Somebody sold you the wrong thing, right? The real one is loving. And the fifth thing is, no matter how you pray, add a piece of the Bible. Because the Bible brings clarity in the jungle of your thoughts. So just one passage, start with the New Testament. I would even say, if you really want to experience God, you should read the whole Bible. Every Christian should. Yeah. So you could start with, let's say, 3 chapters a day. If you read 3 chapters a day, you are through the whole Bible within like 7 or 8 months. Something like that. It's not so difficult to read the whole Bible. And if you're afraid of that, start with the New Testament. If you read for half an hour every day, you will read the New Testament 6 times a year. You can read it within 2 months if you read half an hour per day, something like that.
The next question, the fourth one, is how does a transformation of a heart happen? Is it spectacular or is it a slow process? Can a human heart be changed by human efforts or only by God?
I start with the last question. A human heart is neither changed by human effort alone nor by God alone. For a human heart to be changed, it needs at least 3 elements. The first one always is the grace of God, because there are things that you cannot do yourself. The second thing is you will need other people. You cannot live a spiritual life with God and yourself alone. There will be some things that only other people can do for you. And the third thing is there are some things that you are responsible for yourself, which God will not do for you. God will not brush my teeth, right? I don't have to pray for my teeth to be brushed. I have to do it. So this is the first thing. So how does a human heart change? The thing is, it's a lifelong process, and it looks differently for every human being. First of all, God's intention I believe his only intention for our life here on earth is for us to be transformed. And everything, be it a love relationship, be it prayer life, be it something beautiful, be it pain, be it suffering, be it work, being family life, everything can, and if you follow Christ, will be a part of your transformation. So all of that will be used for you to transform into a more loving, a more just, a more merciful, a more straightforward, a more free, a more joyous person. This is the transformation.
Okay, and the 5th question is, what is your definition of salvation? Does it happen in life or after death?
I do not have one single salvation, because there are at least 3 dimensions to salvation. There is individual personal salvation. The second thing is individual personal transformation, which is part of salvation. So the difference is, if I pray a prayer, God save me, well, he will probably save me, but to be transformed is also salvific. It's also salvation, but it takes a whole lifetime. And then the third dimension is salvation is not just a personal thing, but God is the one who rescues a whole nation. That he takes the captives out of Egypt into Israel. So the whole idea of salvation being an individual thing is a rather modern thing. So as a Christian, I don't only have hope for me as a person, but for the world. And there is a salvation waiting for the whole world. So for me, the context in all of it all is a once-in-a-lifetime situation, but also it's growing through the history until uttermost fulfillment in new heaven and new earth. So even coming back to the simple question, my personal salvation, it starts in the moment you say yes to grace in your baptism or whenever you open yourself up to God. This is the starting point, but the fulfillment, of course, will only be in eternity.
Thank you for answering these questions. As we are near to the end of our conversations, could you please answer one more question that I hope it will summarize what's most important? What are the foundations of your ministry? What is your why behind what you do? So why do you do what you do?
I think because I was made to do this. This is who God made me. And for me, I'm so driven by the beauty that I encountered and the love that I encountered that I need to share. It's not even I want to, but it's just like the sun needs to shine. I have to give that away. And also that's who I am. I'm made for something like that. Therefore I do it.
Thank you. That's really inspiring. Johannes, thank you for sharing your experience and thoughts on beauty, quality, leadership, and all these other topics. It means a lot to me, and I believe it will mean a lot to our audience.
I love those questions. Thank you.
I'm sure people got inspired, and that this conversation will awaken their hunger for more. So could you tell us where can we follow your activities, events and teachings?
Yeah, most of my stuff is in German only, but it's in the process of being translated. I have a YouTube channel called Dr. Johannes Hartl. I have an Instagram channel, which is the same one. And I have some books out in Polish, even I think 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome.
And I also invite you to follow the Foundation's account on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and to subscribe this channel for more inspiring videos. And thank you once again, Johannes.
Welcome.
Hope to see you soon.